let's do a bit of a rant to start the week here, shall we? Probably not as aggressive as I'd usually do, although let's see where it goes. It'll probably escalate at some point, because I want to address a whole bunch of comments on the Sargon and Tate video, including one comment, which I noticed was only in my notifications, not in the actual comments, meaning the Dillweed probably deleted it. Wonder why. Who said, I have low T and Sargon has high T. Very highbrow insult, by the way. Clearly you spent all afternoon crafting that one. And I'm attacking him out of jealousy or some stupid BS. Because apparently that's how it works nowadays, isn't it? You can't have a disagreement with someone's assessment once they've attained a certain level of acclaim without some wanker activating tribal mode and pitching a hissy fit about it. I wonder if they know I only made this channel because Sargon and Callum on the Lotus Eaters told me to. That'll be a fun discovery, but anyway. There were some puzzling comments, mainly some that didn't quite get the point of the video. There didn't seem to be much of a disagreement. Not really, no. I did take issue with some of the language you used, because blind men is unfairly slanderous in my opinion. A gross generalization, really. Some comments said blinded sounds better, and I agree, it doesn't sound quite so aggressive then. But as people pointed out, Sargon does read a lot of high-tier philosophy and all, and that vocabulary has seeped into his writing. Not so much in his verbal communication, which is to his credit, but it's definitely present in the writing. He does come off like he fancies himself an intellectual, and he's definitely a smart bloke, don't get me wrong. But when it's writing on Twitter, know your audience, mate. One does not need expressions of grandiose and poise to make an effective argument. Probably would help with demeanor, though, I will concede that one. Couple of things, though, because I get the impression people think I'm confusing capitalism with materialism or corporatism. No. It has nothing to do with the state apparatus, at least not for the argument that I was making anyway. And for the record, I don't have a problem with capitalism in isolation. I think it's definitely the superior economic model. I mean, if you disagree with that, you're just stupid and insane. But as someone said, communism was also hyper-focused on materialism. Yeah, perhaps, but they don't have the problem with the excess and abundance. Their problem is the top-down approach is sclerotic and unmanageable. Their problem is ideologically induced waste and the artificially induced scarcity. Our problem is capitalism is the fuel that drives the materialism into the stratosphere. Our problem is it seems if people are hyper-focused on just that, people lose themselves in things and possessions rather than develop a life outside of that. As people become more dependent on technology, we lose appreciation for other things in life, as well as decaying in function. It has its own set of problems, over-reliance on capitalism's success being one of them. Like, we may have all of this stuff in a higher quality of life due to the materialistic progress thanks to capitalism, but do we have a high quality of happiness? Are we more socially adept thanks to increased communication mechanisms? No, absolutely not. A lot of our society are miserable. We have more access to information than any previous people on the planet. And are we a whole lot smarter? No, definitely not. Many people are stupid as hell. I get that people think we should return to tradition, however you define that, whether that be religion or more family orientation in society. But the former was sort of increasingly ostracized post the Enlightenment era in favor of rationality, which as we can tell isn't quite so rational after all. Like those activities that require spending time away from time that could be spent serving the consumer machine of capitalism, I get the impression they'd be in competition for time with capitalism, and I don't quite know how you reconcile that fact in practice. I kinda hope I'm wrong there. It would be better for society if I was. I'm pulling this out of my ass, by the way. I have no data for this, just a speculation. But I think it might have something to do with the drive of efficiency over everything else. Modernity lacks a soul. Look at modern architecture. It's awful. It's so plain and lifeless, like if brutalism tried to do a style. It seems that what we lack in craftsmanship, we try and compensate for with brightly lit colors. I'd say the last period where we had a heavy wave of industrial might but still had the appreciation for the artistic aesthetic was the Art Deco era. That was in the 1920s, by the way. And look at this bar, for example, right? This is the Atlas Bar in South Korea. This was made in 2002, about 80 years after the original era. And look at it. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Look at the ceiling, the molding, the railing, the wall decorations, even down to the geometric pattern on the carpet. It's very bold and dramatic. Here's my take on this. If I look at this picture, I can look at this in awe and wonderment. It can move me. Modern production lacks this quality. It's just there. It's so sterile and bland, it can't move you, unless it itself is somehow animated. It can't move the soul merely by its existence. Now, to crank it up a notch or two, here's something that I've noticed some people do. And this is not just in my videos, this is a general pattern. You'll get someone who watches a video, alright? and they'll get to a certain point, something will piss them off, and they'll pause the video to write their spiel, not knowing there's a good chance what pissed them off is likely explained later in the video. Oh, but the rage cannot be contained. And you can see these comments because you'll find them and think, why the hell did they say this? Because they probably didn't watch the whole thing, that's why. And for some reason, the comment is still there. It's either that or they lack some depth of understanding, and so the rage must be expelled. It's funny either way. But something I have to mention, and this drives me up the wall, something on the purity acid test, and I will argue this till I am blue in the face and everyone admits I'm right, because I am. Because I saw someone say something along the lines of, oh, Tate's message has been said by better men. Who the hell do you think you are to say that? What are you, the gatekeeper of messages, are you? You do realize you look like such a condescending git saying that out loud. Just because you heard that message does not mean that others must hear from the same source as you. That doesn't make any bloody sense. It's not just about the message, it's about the one who is delivering the message, because not everyone gets their information or creed from one universal source. People also respond differently depending on the style of the delivery. Stop me if I'm frying your brain cells over here. Again, I detest this aspect of not listening to the man's good parts purely on the basis of his past actions. That doesn't make any bloody sense to me. I get the concept of judging a man by his actions, that has merit, sure, but that concept is not relevant here. You're not trying to judge the man's character, you're trying to draw inspiration from what the man says through whatever content of his you're interacting with. Like if a bodybuilder gave me excellent workout advice that was of good quality that helped me improve my self-esteem, if I found out he's a serial killer and he rammed a chainsaw through someone's torso, that doesn't make his advice any less helpful or less valuable. Inspiration is inspiration, whether it came from the hero or the villain. Judging someone based on their heroes without knowing what moved them into a better place makes you look like a stuck-up, pretentious asshole. So don't do that shit. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.